This is a podcast or something like that. Okay, sorry about that. That was a commercial for Beatboxing Incorporated. This episode of Verbal Journal, which is episode 30, I believe. Fuck, what if it's 29? I feel like it might be 20. And I can't make an excuse to check. I have to just go deep inside myself. I have no idea. Anyways, this episode is sponsored by Big Beatbox Incorporated. And we will be selling beatboxes at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for tuning in to this vaguely numerically identified Verbal Journal podcast episode. Sorry, that was my desk. Yep, that was more of my desk. Featuring a guest host, my desk. How are you doing today, desk? Oh gosh, desk, you're always coming up with some crazy plans. Really? Okay, I don't know if we need to talk about that right now. Okay, no, I said I was sorry about that, and that was a very long time ago, and I didn't realize that you were there in the corner of the room just sitting there. It was okay, yes, I know. Yeah, it does. I'm sorry. This is just a little tension, listeners, between the hosts. This is very normal on a podcast. You sometimes have conflict. You know what, desk? Maybe you're not ready to guest host because this is excessive conflict. Okay. Speaking of excessive conflict, I was just reading. It's Sunday morning. I woke up not hungover, but nauseous. I guess that's an element of being hungover. I drank too much. I had I'd say I had 4 to 5 drinks last night, and maybe, I don't know. It's a little bit hard to measure. You know, they're different sizes, and one was in a red cup, and I was at a little party with my friends. So I drank more than I needed to, which is pretty unusual. And I didn't feel super drunk, but when I got home, I did realize just how drunk I was. I also biked, which was interesting. So I knew it was going to be, it's a 15-minute bike ride, when you're many drinks in is not ideal, but I made it home and I was super nauseous last night and still a little bit coming into this morning. Not too bad, not dysfunctionally hungover, just nauseous, a little lingering nausea. So what I was doing was I was reading, which doesn't sound like the thing you would do, but reading a physical book, not using a screen, yeah. So I was reading this book by, I have some books about relationships I've maybe mentioned. So I already went through one of them that's called Conscious Loving by this couple. It's from 30 years ago or something. It was good. I mean, I've gone through a few other books just looking for people's takes on relationships, and I recently found these books that are by some of the more famous, renowned psychological professionals and writers. So the one I was reading today is by John Mordecai Gottman. I found his middle name on the inside cover. And I'm Jewish. Otherwise, that would be kind of like a coded anti-Semitic thing to point out, I feel like. But no, I just think that's a badass middle name. And John Gottman is a very famous psychologist. I actually don't know his immediate... I think he's a PhD. Hold on, let me get the book. Yeah, okay. No, I'm not going to get the book because I only want to talk about this for a second. But yeah, he's a PhD, okay. And he does all these... I knew he was a PhD. He's famous for doing research, which you basically have to be a PhD to do. He has the Love Lab where he puts couples in a fake apartment for from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I think maybe for one day, maybe for multiple, but like he's done it with hundreds and hundreds of couples at different stages in their relationships to see, and like, you know, at certain points we'll be like, hey, please, like, you know, discuss something that you currently discuss, an unresolved conflict. Yeah. Anyways, it's got a little bit of the grifter stank on it, but God, I gotta stop starting with the negative stuff. But it's like you have to take in the sort of like self-help vibe of a lot of these books. It's not a grifter, but it's just like it's got that like vibe of like he literally says like his 7 principles for making love work are all of them are essential for any happy relationship. And any one of them like going awry, I'm sorry, let me restate it. And when a relationship ends, which I believe he refers to as fails, I believe he does several times. I'm just realizing that now. Maybe that's part of why it rubs me the wrong way. But like he just overstates some of the things specifically related to his own breakthroughs and methods. But it was very interesting. His first like myth that he stated people have about relationships and how to make relationships work. His first like, oh, this is a misconception about, you know, this was that the misconception that like active listening and like direct conflict resolution is like the main thing essential for healthy, happy relationships. Like it seemed like such a straw man. Like it was sort of meant to be shocking. Like, oh, like listening is not like it's sort of like a, what's he called? A Mott and Bailey, where it felt like he started with like, and there's 2 authors, but he's the main author. Nan Silver is the other author. It felt like he started with the proposition of like, oh, relationships, like active listening is not. It's almost like he's saying it's not essential, I guess is the best way to put it. Like active, reflective listening and directly like resolving conflicts verbally, basically. That is not essential for relationships. But then he goes on to say like, no, I know it's very important and good, and active listening is good and resolving conflicts is good, but it's not in and of itself going to make a relationship happy. And it's like, yeah, no, I know. I mean, I know, but okay. He is responding. He's way more experienced than me, and he's responding to real issues in marital therapy, which is that, or like couples therapy, which is that a lot of people have really bad experiences with couples therapy, and a lot of couples therapists are aware of problems in their own methods. And like he's saying, hey, I studied this scientifically and I am studying this, so let's look at the data. And good for him. He literally has just like done rigorous scientific study of relationships and so like he has the right to be a little bold. I do have to give him that. And he's not, I should not have said grifter stank, that is, for multiple reasons, but I shouldn't have referred to him as a grifter. Okay. So, cause it's not, it's just like got that weird, like over the top, overconfident self-help vibe that I would never, ever want in my writing. But I guess it's easy to say when you're not as successful. Anyways, life has been, I am very successful for myself. I guess it's hard to compare one person to another, you know, but yeah, experienced is probably the word I was looking for. So speaking of successes, what have I been up to? What's been going on? I'm doing well, thanks. How are you? Wow. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, and hold on, coffee. So I'm sitting here in my living room, windows closed. I got a new easel to paint on right over to my right, next to the circular table and one of the nice chairs. Actually the only nice chair, or they're all nice in different ways. But the canvas that I have on the easel is the one that's dried because I don't want to have drying oil paint in the room with me with the windows closed as I'm recording. So I got a few paintings in the room, but they're all dry. Well, I have a bunch, a few visible. If I had to count all of the canvases I have in this room, it would be, let's see, 3, 5, 6, 7, 7, and one blank one over by the fireplace. One on the easel, so that's 8. 3 in other places, that's 11. One that's someone else's, so we won't count that. And then under the TV and next, like under the TV and next to it on top of the filing little file cabinet. I mean, I won't even go over and count, but it's like probably 25. So yeah, 30 to 40 paint canvases in the room, potentially more than 40. Oh yeah, a few more hanging on the walls. So I've been doing a lot of painting, and then that's just in this room. In the other room, my bedroom, I alternate where the paintings are when they're drying. Like I never am just sitting in the room with them. Even though most of the oil paints are not toxic, they smell toxic. And some of them are toxic. And there's like, turpentine on little bits on some of the brushes or other things. But I don't paint with turpentine, but it can get, places. Especially because yesterday I went and I bought, I went to a sort of antique shop, thrift shop. And I went there and I bought a frame. That's where I got the easel. I wasn't planning on getting an easel, but I walk up and I saw an easel. I'm like, okay, well, I've been needing an easel. The way I've been painting lately is I sit in that nice chair I was talking about, right by this low circular table. And it's like knee height or something. And then I basically I put my saxophone case standing up, and then behind it, I put my amp, which has like more weight and more like better sort of friction points at the bottom, basically. So it sticks to the table in a better way and blocks and buttresses the saxophone case, which I then put a canvas on top. No more having, not on top, but like leaning it, onto it. No more having to do that though, because now I have an easel and it's great. It took some fixing up. I had to tape it multiple different ways for about half an hour to get it to be, like a regular canvas, but now it's amazing to use, and I was using it yesterday. I've been painting such an absurd amount that my family's staging an intervention for me, and they're like, look, and that's literally all they'll say. It's weird. They've done it multiple times. I get home to my apartment and my whole family's there, and they go, look. And then they just have all the paintings that I've done right there. And they've been inhaling them, and their eyes are watering, and it's a nightmare that I wake up with multiple times a night. Anyways, on a more real note, so yeah, I do have like in the other room probably 15 paintings drying. I've been painting so much, and that's paintings that I've been working on at least any time in the last few weeks. They can be paintings from years ago that then I added a layer on 2 weeks ago, and if I did it thick enough, it's not fully dry. I got like 4 canvases last weekend. I think I mentioned that on the pod probably on Sunday. Short episode last week, but I'm saying that like I didn't make the episode. Yeah, so I got like 4 canvases at the end of a party, and I brought them home and I painted on 2 of them that night, and then I think 2 in the next few days. So those are all drying. And then, yeah, there's just been a lot. And then, yeah, 1 or 2 of those I'd worked on again this past week. Oh my gosh, I'm really having a good time. I've been painting just so much. So it's been quite fun. And what else have I been doing? Amazing news. I'm sure I mentioned this being an in-process thing on the last pod, but just regarding my professional life and my work as a therapist, I successfully found a new office and signed the lease on Thursday. So it's an office building I've been aware of. I've actually checked it out before. Never could make the jump. I've been at a place where I could pay by the month. I didn't have to sign a whole 12-month lease. And it was good enough. And, I was like, oh, it's got a nice view. And I was like, okay, it's like fairly nice, whatever. And it's such a pain in the ass to switch offices. I mean, I just have to tell every insurance company and go through whatever form they have. I shouldn't really cry about it. I don't think it was that big. I think it took like a few hours at most when I, got this office. So, I keep telling my brain that it's lying to me when it's like super stressed about this. I'm just like, it's going to just take time. You know what I mean? But, so, the cool thing is, like, I really did need a change, though. I really did need a change. Even though my office has been, like, adequate. Sorry, there's a bumblebee flying down the road in the background. Even though my office has been adequate, it's not been what it needs to be. Because the big difference will be, well, it's not been as good as it can be, is a better way to put it. It's been everything it needs to be, but just enough is the best way to put it. Because now I can walk to my office every day, and instead of being like, oh yeah, I should say, so where I currently have been, people, there's just a lot of turnover in the other offices. People, and some of those people might be a little louder, and just the offices are spaced sort of right next to each other. So you have you have the privacy of your own office, but like you don't feel as secluded as you need to be. And it's like, it's actually been really interesting to just work like this for the last 11 months in this office and be like, okay, it's been good enough, but like, I know that I need to and my clients need to feel secluded more, to really feel like we have more privacy. I mean, privacy, it's like you can reach the line where you're like private enough you're not breaking confidentiality, but you need to go well beyond that, not just a little beyond it, but like well beyond it. I think if you want to actually enjoy work as a therapist, like, and I've been enjoying it, don't get me wrong, but like the thing is, I've been enjoying it like 90% of the time, and then 10% of the time there's like people walking and closing doors, just outside the room and this and that. And like, hear someone's voice even as they walk down the hall, like that my office. It's like going to be so different in that regard. So, and I've always had noise machines and maintain confidentiality for sure. But, I now it's going to be even better. I'm going to have like even more, privacy, and my clients are going to definitely feel the difference, and I'm going to feel the difference. And the thing is, I really like my work, but it's like challenging work and stimulating. I really enjoy it. I really like enjoy reading about therapy and wanting to grow. And like, it just like has put a damper on it to have unpredictability associated with it in such an intense way, where I could just be a little on edge. It's like I'm someone who focuses very well, but I'm also easily distracted. I think, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was younger. I feel like it probably fits. I feel like now I just, I'm someone who like has sort of reined it in and it doesn't cause me problems. So I probably wouldn't fit the clinical diagnosis of ADHD now, but, but like those pathways are in me and stuff. And it's like, I can definitely, I hyper focus on things, but I can also, I definitely do not need, I mean, it's fucking reasonable to be distracted. Like, that's the thing, because like, it's not just being distracted at the sounds, it's being distracted at the perception that my client hears the sounds as well. And like, someone closing a door or someone, like on a phone loudly, it's like really not cool. I don't mean to say that there was constant intrusions in my therapy sessions. Don't let me overstate it. It was not like that. It was just like, if there was ever intrusions, I'm like, I need that to not happen. It's like having a teleconference when I started over, in March 2020 to do all teleconference, which I did for then 2.5 years before the period we've been talking about. There's so many adjustments to make it an actually flowing session, blocking out the visual stimulation of the traffic going by my apartment, making sure to cover the window, putting my desk in a different place to get the lighting right, making sure getting on a higher Wi-Fi plan so I could get like I forget how much, 130 megabytes per second or something. I don't remember. But like it was, something, changing the Wi-Fi, changing so many other things that I couldn't even name, all that stuff made it so I could just focus on the work. And now it's going to be even more, just stable and so cool. And yeah, I fucking walk to work, I walk to work. I do not even have a car nowadays. I just walk to work. I walk home. Then I paint for hours, and it's like a delightful life. I'm enjoying myself so much. The YouTube's doing really well. I'm still getting tons of views on all the videos just from the Breaking Bad video, just tons of views. So that's really super amazing. And so, yeah, I feel stable enough and comfortable enough to sign a 1-year lease, because that's the hitch. You can't get this type of better shit sometimes without, rising to the occasion and, putting on your adult pants. I was wearing shorts at the time, actually, and signing a lease. So I did that. I signed the lease, and now I am going to move in September 1st. And yeah, there was this whole, it was just a whole process. They were really serious, and like a little annoying, the property manager, but I'm like, I think that's going to be, good. I think it's better to have a hands-on, slightly annoying property manager than one who is so hands-off that they sort of let the space be not as good as it could be and stuff. So, yeah, so stay posted for updates on that. I got to move in 2 weeks. I've planned out a few days off work so I can do that, try to make the transition smooth. And yeah, what else has been going on? That's been, wow, a lot. I didn't expect to talk that long about everything, but, figure I might just talk about it. What I planned on talking about, okay, let's see. 3 years of the channel. Yeah, that's as of like 3 weeks ago. I just haven't mentioned it. Yeah, had the YouTube channel for 3 years. That's cool. Getting an office. I talked about that. Oh yeah, Max Ernst book. Fuck, this is so fucking annoying. So I was talking about artist biographies last week and how I really enjoyed this Calvin Tompkins biography of Rauschenberg, which did have issues, by the way. I couldn't remember if I mentioned that. I don't want to go into them, but just for the record, once or twice the book was like, the author said something in a way that I found extremely questionable. And that's the thing. You just get that sometimes in writing where you're like, wait, I don't like how they describe that. That represents a serious lapse in judgment. And I'm not going to go into details. So yeah, Calvin, but otherwise fantastic book on Robert Rauschenberg and the abstract expressionist people and adjacent people. Very interesting, extremely enjoyed it. Then I read a terrible book about Paul Klee, which made me dislike his art and see him completely differently. And the biographer was unbelievably bad. And then I was like, oh, wait, I have this Max Ernst book. I've never really thought of it as a biography. I just thought of it as a book of his art. But it's obviously got a full biography. It's a biography. And it was really good. He's like been my favorite artist for a while, like, because I sort of like moved from Salvador Dali to Max Ernst. I also love Yves Tanguy. I don't know how to pronounce his name. But yeah, I just like that kind of surreal art, and especially Max Ernst, because he just uses such interesting techniques, which I've been sort of like interested in similar techniques, like, putting a lot of, or like putting like what's called like grottage and frottage. It's like you layer paint onto paint, but also then strip it off. Also like maybe, using some other materials to apply the paint, a knife or a rock or anything, different, any sort of, just basically messing with stuff a lot. And then, yeah, pulling what I've been, doing also, yeah, pulling paint off. What I love to do, and I think I got this from Max Ernst or like inspired by him, where you do a lot of those messed up techniques, but then you paint over it and you find the images within the sort of like natural processes that you've created, either whether it's pulling the paint off or different ways of doing that. And then you take that sort of positive negative space and you add, like, I guess, a synthesis. You have the thesis, the antithesis, the thesis being your paint, I'm just making this up, but the antithesis being pulling off the paint, and then the synthesis being painting over it. But yeah, you paint over it tiny details or different things. So I've been doing different things like that, but not all my paintings are all like weird like that. Some of them are a little bit less weird, but a lot of the ones I've been doing lately, adding water and like splattering little bits of oil paint that doesn't really dissolve in water over the canvas. And, and then, doing tape and painting around the tape and then pulling the tape off and stuff like that. But anyways, Max Ernst is an amazing painter and was an amazing painter and was like the surrealism guy, even like before Salvador Dali. He was like the most famous surrealist painter at the beginning of surrealism in the early 1920s. He was born in 1891 in Germany, and he just, I really had hopes that I could like respect him as a person, but there's like, a few, like, basically the problem is he apparently had this really like a relationship that makes me question his judgment to a serious degree. Okay. And like, so did Salvador Dali to some extent. I mean, he did, like, I think, I don't know all the details, but I think he met his wife, like, it was his friend's partner. Yeah. But I mean, whatever. Okay. Those things happen. You know what I mean? That's not necessarily unethical. I can look past it. Like, whatever. I don't know all the context of how that went down. And like, if they're in love, like, great. You know what I mean? Gala and Salvador. I mean, they're not anymore, and they weren't by the end of his life, but anyway, so with Max Ernst, so I don't know his whole history of all his relationships, and the main problem with what I'm about to say was also the way the biography wrote about, not the main problem, a secondary problem, but a main problem in the sense that it stopped me from reading the biography. Basically, they talk about him getting together with his second wife, who I had her name somewhere. Marie Berthe Audench. I'm sorry. They were married from 1927 to 1942. Wow. And then he married Peggy Guggenheim after her. Wow, I forgot he was married to Peggy Guggenheim, only for 4 years. Wow. Just like one of the most famous New York art people ever. So anyways, so he was, oh wow. Yeah, so first he was married to Louise Strauss Ernst, from 1918 to 1927. I think she was French, and he met her while he was living in Paris or France. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but I think she was French. And so they're married for 9 years. And then in 1927, when he remarried Marie Berthe Audench, that's the relationship that I really am questioning. I didn't know anything about his life, but like, so he married this woman, and the way the biography described it literally used the word consent, like said that she was under, like, well below age of consent, or like it said like she was well under the age of consent or something. But it didn't say age. It was like this weird sort of figurative language. It was like she was well below consent or something. And I was like, what? So I looked it up. And it's not true that she was, but she was super young, and he was 36, and she was born apparently in 1906. Unless this is like misinformation about her birth date, multiple sources, but okay, that makes her 21 when they got married. and he was 36. Okay, that's not like criminal, and that's not below the age of consent. Okay, and then this other source says 1905 she was born. Okay, so now she's even older. But I believe there are sources. I saw one source that said 1910, which would have made her under the age of consent. But anyways, like, it's ridiculous to have to fucking, like, why did he? Okay, so it was like his friend's younger sister, who he met when he was a 35-year-old, like, oh, this photo of them in a photo booth with, I presume her brother, is so weird. Max looks so much older, yo. He looks like he could be her dad. And, like, she was just impressionable. She had just, like, come out of a nunnery, like, shortly before. Yeah, that was the weird sentence the biography said. Like, she went from... Anyways, I don't even want to fucking say it. But, like, I just... And then, like, she was, like... her family wanted her to marry some lawyer, according to one source. And then she ran off with Max Ernst, which, like, fair enough. You know, she obviously... It's her decision who she wants to be with. I just really had to question the judgment... Okay, and then it's really sad because, like, she never got over the relationship, according to a few sources, and would, like, after he divorced her, like, she would, like, make pilgrimages. I guess she became religious again, and she became so religious she would, like, make these pilgrimages to him to, like, try to get him back. And this is, I guess, trigger warning if you don't want to talk about something really serious, just skip forward 30 seconds. So, but yeah, like, she, I guess, had a lot of issues in her mental health, and, like, she actually killed herself, when I think she was around age, she was 54. She killed herself in 1960, which I think one source said was related to her feelings about him, which is just so sad. And look, that's not all on Max Ernst, obviously. But look, one source says in late 1927, Ernst met painter Marie-Berthe Arendt. Okay, to call her a painter, I don't think she was not an established figure like he was. She was 21 or 20 or something. And he was, like, very, very established. It's just weird to want to be with someone so clearly not on your fucking level. Yeah, he married her almost immediately. He had to, like, write letters to her dad to get permission to marry her. I think because of him wanting her to marry this lawyer, not because she was a child. But I don't fucking know. And it just, like... So she was, like, you know, my impression of this relationship, you know, is that she was this, like, kooky, like, interested, like, she's described as being this, like, kooky, you know, offbeat, really, like, oddball person who I think that was related to some real struggles with her mental health. So, like, even I think one of the famous surrealist writers, I forget which one, like, referred to her as, like, delusional or something, or like, I might have made that up, or some word to mean delusional. But, like, it's just sad because what it feels like is that maybe Max Ernst should have just, like, been her older friend, you know, instead of whatever. Like, the real, like, reading this biography was so wild though, because it was like it just, like, made it used all these terms to make Max Ernst seem like this domineering, like, sort of, like, commanding figure. And, like, that kind of seems bad in this case with a woman, 20, apparently 20 or 21 years old or whatever. And he's 36. You know, maybe that's not the attitude to go about a relationship like this with. You know, maybe you should go about a relationship like this with a different set of characteristics. So it's not his fault that this woman had mental health issues. I don't think. But it is, I really think he had a negative impact on this person, it sounds like. And that is very, it's hard to hear about someone you respect. But I guess that's why you read their biography. How I didn't know, I don't know anything about this guy's life. Like, why should I even be surprised? It's like, why did I ever have any other idea of him? I guess you think of artists, you hope they're, I mean, I don't think he had malicious intent in this case. I think he had a lack of judgment. I think, like, you should want to be in relationships with someone relatively similarly established in life. That's just like a fucking feeling I have. I know that's very black and white, but I think if you want to be in a relationship with someone either vastly more or vastly less established in the world, that is a huge problem that you need to consider. Because that's going to make you codependent from one direction or the other. I feel like, the person who needs to be the one more established is also codependent. You know what I mean? It's not just the one who needs to be with someone more established. The one who wants to be the one who's more established and way more settled and able to make their own living and fucking famous. Like, he wasn't at the peak of his career, but already famous. That person wanting to be with someone, presumably, I don't know. It just seems like she was completely dependent. He literally took her, he had to get her father's permission to be with her. Does that not say it all? The fact that, I don't know. Yeah, there was one other sentence in the... Oh, yeah, there was a few things. There were a few things. Wait. So also, what was the earlier thing? Oh, man, I was going to say something in between, but what was the earlier one? Oh, yeah, he was, in some school. It was, his high school or something. And he was, they were doing these investigations about the school, and they asked... It was a religious school. And they asked him if he knew of any teachers who were having sexual I guess gay relationships with the high school boys at the school. Okay, and let's just say it was college, because I don't remember for sure it was high school. He didn't go to... Wait, he did go to college. Yeah. He did go to college. Whatever. Let's just say it's college for the sake of argument. And he refused to answer whether there were teachers. Oh, I don't know. The book framed it as this positive thing. And it's wait, but what? Isn't that kind of weird for teachers to have relationships with their students, So that was the one point where you're huh? Red flag for this biography. And then the second point, and then the red flag for Max Ernst too. It's what the hell? You know what I mean? That's not great, I don't think. Judgment. And that's similar. That I wanted to say it first before the next point, because it's related to the Marie birth. Apparently she went by Mabe or something. Marie Mabe, she, you can see a similar dynamic. He's trying to uphold this righteousness of huge power differential relationships. What? But then another point was he at one point worked with he worked on some play that was either funded by someone with messed up political ties, a conservative or something, but not just any conservative. But anyways, it's not my judgment. I didn't do a deep dive into it. But the point is, at the time, Max Ernst was sort of part of the surrealist group, but he was kind of doing his own thing, whatever. But the surrealists, a bunch of surrealists denounced him for working with these people. And at the opening of the play, they handed out brochures secretly to the audience members, condemning Max Ernst for working with this person. And so that was interesting reading the biography, because it was like sort of, the biography was almost, it's from like, 1960 or something, but it was almost like, oh, like fucking cancel culture, basically the 1960 version of like fucking, and it's a well-written biography in other ways too. So it's been very disappointing. I was definitely feeling it was very well-written in a lot of other ways. That's why I forgave the few indiscretions, but it's been really hard to keep reading on since this part about Marie Berthe Orange. Because I just now I just see Max Ernst more for who he is or was. And that's rough, but I don't think it should make me never be able to look at a Max Ernst painting. It's going to make me, now I realize, okay, yeah, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt, basically. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. And now he doesn't get that benefit. He gets more of a clear sense of who he was. And okay, I think artists should, always strive to be in relationships that are, I don't know, mutually beneficial and don't leave someone feeling like they have to make a pilgrimage to you. I mean, I don't know. He has to hold some responsibility in that. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't think healthy relationships end with someone wanting to make a pilgrimage to the other person. And I blame Max Ernst, at least somewhat, in that. Okay. What else did we want to talk about? We've been talking a ton. So that's okay. We got a little bit more we got a bit more to say. Videos on YouTube sometimes seem to exist just for the sponsorship. And that's something that, I think about. I might have even mentioned on a previous episode. It really rubs me the wrong way when I get that vibe. It's just a vibe. Like, you watch like a 20-minute commentary video and you're like, and it's about just like something so that it seems like it could be about anything, and then it's like, or so like small or like, and trust me, I don't mind. I'm not saying don't do sponsorships or don't do videos on small things, but do you ever get the feeling that a video just exists for the purposes of sponsorship? Because I've definitely felt that. And it's interesting to me because you can never know. You could never know whether they would actually have wanted to talk about that or not unless they say. So I just think it's funny that I sometimes get that vibe. I'm like, okay, would they have made this video if they didn't have like a contract that they had to do like a video this month? Now, I guess the question I have is like, does it inherently make it less artful? No, I don't think it. I definitely don't think doing something for a sponsorship makes it less artful. But does it make it less artful to do it just for sponsor, or to have the sponsorship be a necessary and sufficient reason? Like, I understand it being a necessary reason, but it shouldn't be sufficient. You should have to also know. You should have to also want to do it for some other reason, right? But that's the question. Like if someone wanted me to make a painting for them for money, and I didn't enjoy the process of painting in any way, and it was like if you asked me to memorize like pi or something, like I would not. That's how it would feel or something. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad, but like if I did it just for the money, I mean, that's not even a good metaphor for it though. I don't feel. Well, yeah, if I did it just for the money, like I don't understand how that would work. I'm trying to think of a better metaphor because I don't understand like physically how you could spend time doing something and not get any enjoyment out of it. So it's more like, okay, what if you got paid? What if there were sponsorships in painting? And why am I doing an analogy? Why am I doing an analogy? Okay, so yeah, basically I just think the thing with like if that's the whole reason and you're not caring about what you're talking about, I guess it'll come through. I guess that's the most worth saying. Okay. Segments time. Good comment of the week. So every week we read the best comment, nicest comment I've gotten, someone who's really makes me feel good about their comment and how nice it is. Someone on the Breaking Bad video said, the effort you put into this down to the clips used and the insights you provide is amazing. That's very kind. I especially like, well, thank you about the insights. That's very nice. But I especially like when people mention the clips used, because I think that's really underappreciated. And the editing is very, I think, but that's, I'm just really jazzing myself up here. But like, I feel like the amount of work I put into the clips and the editing is enormous and really is so good that you like don't even notice it. That's how I think about it. I spent like I gathered so many hours of clips from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul just for the last video. I mean, I think it was like 12 hours of clips. So that takes probably 20 hours to do that. And then to render it and cut it all up and maintain a timeline of so many clips that I'm not using so I can use them at the right time and like try to have them arranged in a certain way. It was like, and then editing it all so I could keep the video copyright like proof and make money off of it and not get it broken up by ads automatically by YouTube, which would have completely fucked up the entire flow of the video and made it get way less views and way less attention. It's like, holy fuck. I feel so proud of that. I mean, I just put so much effort into the editing. I think I got it on my first try at copyright proof. Like my first draft was just like, because I have learned so much from these 8 videos. Oh, we got a part 2 for good comment of the week. Wow. I was very excited to get another good comment I get multiple good comments, but this person said, the deep dive into mental health was better than any self-help book I've read recently, crying, laughing emoji. So that was super nice. The idea that I'm providing people like a similar thing as a self-help book is very interesting and cool. Now, the misunderstanding comment of the week is the other part of this segment, the other section of this segment. And this is one of the funniest ones I've ever gotten. Someone on the Breaking Bad video, which remember is titled, I watched Breaking Bad after Better Call Saul. Someone commented, no, you didn't, liar. So that's awesome. Okay, chess segment. So I have an amazing announcement, which is I've been talking about how I've been playing a lot of bullet chess, which is a game where each person has 1 minute to start. And, you can do, a little range of like 1 to 2 minutes probably and call it bullet. But I play bullet where each person has 1 minute and there's no increment. You get no added time. So if you get down to 10 seconds and you still have to make 20 moves to win, that could be very hard, even though you can make pre-moves, which use like 0 time. I don't know if they technically use any time on Lichess. I know they do on chess.com, technically use, I think, 0.1 second. I think it's less on Lichess for sure. It might be some amount of time, but maybe not. It might not be, but it's hard to always do pre-moves because basically, so at the level I've gotten to, I've really raised my rating in bullet. I've raised it higher than like any of my other ratings, and it's been in the 1600s for the first time ever. But at that level, the people know how to play bullet, and they know to use a mouse, and they know to be paying attention. Otherwise, they will lose on time, and people know how to make fast moves at this level. So you can't just win by being the guy who knows how to make fast moves and have a mouse, So it can be very tough. But I did actually finally break 1700 this week, which is wild to me. And I'm going to go through the game I did to break it because it was a really funny game. I'm just going to describe it. So they opened with moving their queen's pawn only 1 square, which is very abnormal. I moved my C pawn 2 squares to sort of challenge that pawn so they can't move it further. They advanced the knight on their king side. I advanced a pawn, and basically I'll just go describe it faster. Some normal developing moves. We brought all our knights out, and then it's like move 5. They bring their bishop out to pin my knight to my queen. Normally, I would just bring the bishop out to you bring the bishop out one square in between and block so that if they take my knight with their bishop, I take back with my bishop. But I completely misclicked, and instead I moved my knight that they're attacking back to the square it came from, G8, because I'm black in this game. So but the problem is they had pre-moved to take that knight because they assumed that I was going to advance my bishop or, move my queen and then I'd have to take back with the pawn or something. But they assumed I would do the very normal bishop E7, so I could take back with the bishop. But because I misclicked and moved the knight and they pre-moved to take that knight, instead of taking my queen for free if they had waited 1 second. That's what I'm trying to say. I moved my knight out of the way and they could have taken my queen for free if they had not pre-moved. Okay? For free because I just exposed it. Instead, they pre-moved their bishop to move to the empty square on its way to taking my queen. And then I just take it back with the pawn, which is the worst piece to take back with. But I did it because it sort of blocks their e-pawn from advancing, whatever. And then so now I'm just absolutely crushing material-wise. I find another way to lose the game, which I just realized. On move 14, I let them pin my queen to my king, and they missed it 3 times. I gave them 3 chances to pin my queen to my king, very obvious chances, and they missed it. And then they missed that I came up with a fun pin, and and then I found a checkmate on the board on move 24. So wild game to break 1700. But then I went back below 1700 and I broke it again today. I won't share the game because I think that's enough chess for today. Fantasy baseball update. I am not in the playoffs as I've shared, but I'm still doing well. I did end up winning last week, so I'm 9-9, but I'm 48 points behind on the last day today. I do have Max Scherzer pitching, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think, to beat. This is like the best team in the league. They're 12-6, and they're going to probably close it out here. It would be nice to give them a loss. I want to spoil people's day, but, I'm just kidding. It doesn't spoil their day, I don't think. Screen time report. I always do the screen time report. I used my phone 7 minutes more this past week. Yeah, well, I did use my phone camera app a bit. Oh yeah, I was filming myself painting at one point. That was interesting. I was filming myself painting. Found a way to get a tripod propped up behind the chair I've referenced several times on this episode. And sort of aimed over my head, and then I would hold the canvas up. It didn't. I mean, it's kind of. It's like I don't really like filming myself painting. It's sort of like a lot of the fun of painting is like it's non-digital and it, just is very analog. So yeah, but once in a while it's fun to film. Okay, and for our last segment on the Verbal Journal podcast, I'm going to check the mailbag. So you can write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. That's verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.gov. And if you do that, you will be the first person to write in since Simply Snaps wrote in on July 23rd. Great question. So yeah, anyone feel free to write in if you would like. You don't have to. I'm fine if you don't. I don't even care. I'm bringing it up just because I'm paid to do this. This is my full-time job, this podcast. Do you think it's easy to sit down once a week on Sunday and talk for an hour? This is extremely strenuous. I'm doing exercises all week to prepare. And on that note, that very vulnerable and non-defensive note, thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate your time, and I'm so glad. I don't know if appreciating your time is the right way to put it. I'm glad that, a couple people enjoy listening to this. I certainly enjoyed doing it. And, yeah, thanks. And feel free to let me know what you think of any of these ideas we talk about, and anything related to that. And yeah, feel free to write in if you'd like. But have a great rest of your day or your night or whatever you are doing, time-wise. Okay. Goodbye. Bye.
This is a podcast or something.